Journal entry number 2, significant figures. This is the paper you're going to pick up when you come in. Alright, with this one, you need to do some cutting to get it started. So cut on the border. Alright, first cut the border out of this box below. Do not throw this away. This is going to end up being your title. Okay, you can even like trim it up a little bit if you want to. And you'll end up gluing it in up here at the top. Okay, but on the rest of this, cut out the border. And once you cut off the border, you are going to cut on the horizontal dotted line to make this into strips. Okay, so you're going to cut across the horizontal dotted lines like I'm showing you. Okay, like that. And you're going to cut it into strips. Okay, like that. At this time, I want you to pause the video so you can finish cutting. Okay, now that you've paused the video, you have all those cut out. The next step is to do the folding. Okay, folding on these, you take one of the papers. Alright, that solid line, you're going to fold along the solid line. This is a little difficult, but you can do it. So fold like that. This is how I find that works the best. Okay, fold like that so that you no longer see the words. Okay, so fold on that solid line so you no longer see the words. Okay. Alright. Okay, now this time, go ahead. If you need to pause to finish folding, that's fine. Once you have them all folded, okay, I take all the ones that have two lines, line them up. Actually, I can take them all, stack them all together so that those creases are all lined up. And on that dotted line there, you're going to take your scissors, you're going to cut along that dotted line to the solid line. Do not cut through it. Okay? And then here, do the same thing. If you want to do just a few at a time, that's fine. If you want just 2 pages. Okay? If you need to, you can pause again to finish cutting. But you need to end up with all of those strips like that. Okay? Now, time for the gluing. Okay? So, a few things. Right, page number 2. Okay? Glue your title in as close to the top as you can. Like I said, trim it up so it fits. Trim it up so you can get it as close to the top as possible. Okay? You should have learned about significant figures in chemistry. We're going to review it. I'm not going to emphasize it much while I'm off on maternity leave, but I'll go through it a lot more when I come back. If you notice, each one of these has a number, so number 1, number 2, number 3. Go ahead and get them in order. So it goes all the way through 8, 1 through 8. Now you're going to glue these in, okay? So with that edge folded down, get the glue. This is where you're going to have to use as little glue as you possibly can. Okay? And just put the littlest, thinnest line of glue along that edge. Okay? That actually might have been just a little too much. Okay? Then you're going to take this, try not to space them out too much. Okay? And glue it down, but keep the little numbered flaps up. Little flaps with numbers on them, keep them up so they don't get glued flat onto the page. We are going to be writing underneath those, so don't let them get glued flat. Okay, and put them in numerical order. I'm going to do this super fast. If you need to pause, which is very possible, do so. Just make sure that as you glue these in, they don't overlap. And you don't let those numbers get glued down flat. Just give a little bit of space between each one. Okay, Remember, numerical order, that's just going to prevent you from getting lost when I actually go through and explain. Okay. If you spread them out too much and they go too far, it's not a big deal. You can finish gluing them on the oops page, which I'll explain what that is in just a moment. Okay. Try your best to make them fit. If they don't, like I said, not the end of the world. And actually this very last rule, rule number 8, I'm not even actually going to go over that because we don't deal with it much in my class. And it's really hard to explain, so I will teach it when I come back and I'm physically there with you guys to answer questions. Okay, so a little note, okay? This is page 2. Notice it's on that right side. This page over here, I need you guys to leave these blank. I call this the oops page. So this is the journal page. This is its oops page, okay? So page 2, oops page. This is the oops page because sometimes you're like gluing all these in, you're gluing in, and the last one didn't quite fit. Oops, it doesn't fit. You can glue it on the oops page. Sometimes I have lots of notes and I want it all to be here. If you turn the page over and do it on the back here, you'll never look at those notes again. You need all of the notes about significant figures right here. When you open up this page in your journal, everything is right there in front of you, okay? No turning the page. This is where we could put most of it. If it doesn't quite fit, the oops page. So do not be doing front to back. Keep all of your page numbers on the right-hand page because we will be using that oops page. Okay? All right, here we go. Okay, so give those a few moments. Hopefully they've had a chance to dry. If you need to, if not everyone's got them glued in, pause at this time. Okay. Now for the actual rules. Understanding significant figures. Significant figures is about important or measured digits of a number. With significant figures, it's all about practice, 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 practice. And once you practice it 1,000 times, it finally makes sense. Don't worry. If you're frustrated with this, if you're not getting it, don't freak out about it. It's probably not your fault. It's probably the fault of some math teacher earlier on in your life. Okay, so try your best. Do your best with this, but don't freak out about it. I'll cover a lot more detail when I return. Okay, so first rule. Rule number 1 with significant figures. All non-zero digits are significant. Okay, so if I'm looking at a number and I'm trying to figure out how many significant figures there are, if there's non-zeros, they are significant. So here, 2.3457, there are no zeros in that, so every single one of those digits are significant. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures. So, right here, 5 significant figures. Flip that up and write down 5 significant figures. Okay? 897993. Okay, nice big number. How many of those digits are significant? Say if this was a number given to you in a manual. Okay? That number right there, how many? All of them. They're all significant. So 6 digits. They're all significant. Okay? This last one. Do this last one you're on. How many significant figures does that number have? 65.91. Right? There's no zeros. So they are all significant. So 4 significant figures, regardless of where the decimal point is. Okay. Rule number 2. All zeros between non-zero digits are always significant. So if you have zeros sandwiched, so we have 2004. 2 and 4 are not zeros, but we've got 2 zeros sandwiched between them. Those zeros in the middle are significant. So all 4 of those digits are significant. Okay? So zeros sandwiched between non-zeros are significant. So 50.003, those zeros are sandwiched in between a 5 and a 3, which are non-zeros. Even if there's a decimal point, it doesn't matter. All of those are significant. 5 significant figures. 5 significant digits. Okay? Right here, 490,001. How many significant figures does it have? You give it a try. Yes, all of them. All 6 figures, all 6 digits are significant. Okay. Rule number 3. Leading zeros are not significant. So the zeros in front, look at this number, 009867. Those zeros look weird there, don't they? It's like, what the heck? You would never write zeros in there. Okay, they're not significant. For whatever reason they're there, they're there. They're not significant. So leading zeros, zeros on the left side there, leading zeros are not significant. So those zeros are not significant. So the 9, the 8, the 6, and the 7 are. We've got 4 significant figures. Okay, next number, 0.000674. Those zeros are leading. They are not significant. However, they are necessary. Okay, so the 6, the 7, and the 4, we have 3 significant figures. Okay, the leading zeros are necessary. If you want to write a little note there for yourself. Those leading zeros are necessary. Because if you take them off, it's 674. Well, 674 is not 0.000674. Okay, so they are necessary, they're just not significant. Okay, over here, 0.075. Try that one yourself. Okay, how many significant figures does it have? 2, the 7 and the 5. Okay, that 7 and 5, 2 significant figures. However, this 0 right here, that's optional. That's an optional 0. It's only there to help you see the decimal point. Okay, this 0 is necessary, but it's not significant. It's necessary to let you know how small that 75 is. It's 0.075. It's not 75. Think about like money. That's 7.5 cents or $75. Definitely not the same thing. Okay? All right. Rule number 4. Zeros to the right of all non-zero digits are only significant if a decimal point is shown. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, anyways. That probably doesn't make much sense. So here we go. The number 9,000. If I look at that and I say, okay, someone asked me, how much money do you have in the bank? I'm like, I've got $9,000. Okay. Does that sound exact? No, it doesn't. $9,000 does not sound exact. It sounds like it's been a rounded number. That's what we're talking about a lot of the time with significant figures. Is the number rounded or is it exact? This number, we have to assume it's rounded. Okay, so those zeros right here, those 3 zeros, are not significant because we see no decimal point. So we only have one significant figure, the 9. Okay, now what if it was exact? What if I looked at my account and it was $9,000 down to the dollar? Okay, I need to put a decimal point. All right. The decimal tells us that it is not rounded. Okay, that's what the decimal tells us. It tells us it's not rounded. So 780. How many significant figures does 780 have? Okay, the 0. If there's no decimal point shown there, because this is at the end, this is zeros to the right. If there's no decimal point shown, we have to assume it's rounded. This number could have been 779 and someone rounded it to 780. Okay? So we have to assume that that 0 is rounded. So 2 significant figures. If it wasn't rounded, if it was exactly exactly 780, there should be a decimal point right there to tell us that it's exactly 780. Okay? 32,400 with a decimal point. Okay? That looks rounded. That says it's exact. So we have 5 significant figures. Okay, this is one rule that I think a lot of people kind of struggle with. Just think, okay, is it 0 rounded? All right, if there's a 0 at the end, if there's no decimal point, we have to assume it's rounded. All right, scientific notation. All the digits in the coefficient are significant. Okay, first we have to remember what coefficient is. Back up a page in your journal. Ooh, remember scientific notation, page 1. Coefficient, coefficient. Oh, those numbers in the front. Okay, what about coefficient? If it's in scientific notation, all the digits in the coefficient are significant. Coefficient. With that color you used to highlight the word coefficient in the previous page, I used pink. I recommend you use the same thing here. Highlight that, coefficient. All right, and highlight the coefficient in each of those numbers. And then circle the word all. All the digits in the coefficient are significant. So regardless of what that number is, how big it is, how small it is, if the digits are in the coefficient, they are significant. So we've got 2 digits in the coefficient. We have 2 significant figures. We have 3 digits in the coefficient. We have 3 significant figures. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in the coefficient. We have 4 significant figures. Notice I didn't even care whether the size of the exponent, whatever the base was, doesn't matter. We're talking about significant figures. The coefficient is all that matters. Okay? All right. Rule number 6. All zeros which are simultaneously to the right of the decimal point and at the end of the number are always significant. Okay. So this is a really pain in the butt rule. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we're talking about zeros that are to the right of the decimal. Okay, so here's decimal point, everything to the right. Decimal point, everything to the right. Decimal point, everything to the right. Okay? Zeros that are to the right of the decimal and at the end. Okay, to the right of the decimal and at the end of the number are always significant. So 200.00. Okay? One way to look at this. 200, if I cover the decimal point in those last zeros. The rule 4 says that that has only one significant figure, the 2. I add the decimal point, and now according to rule 4, it has 3 significant figures. If I add those 2 other zeros on, I want you to know that's exact. Okay? So someone says, okay, how much money do you have in your wallet? I'm like, okay, let me check and see. I open my wallet, like, I've got $200. All right? It sounds rounded. And they're like, oh, so you got about $200. No, I have $200. I have 2 $200 bills. So I have exactly 200. That's with a decimal point. Okay? Well, do you have any pocket change? Well, I check my pockets and I check my pockets and there's no change. I don't even have a penny more. 0.00. That's what this is telling us. This is telling us down to the penny, I have exactly $200. Okay? So that's what those extra zeros tell us, that it's super, super exact as to what decimal point, to what space. Okay? So this one has all 5 are significant figures. Okay? Next one. 0.000340. Okay, so zeros which are to the right of the decimal. So the one on the left, no. All right, but what about all of these? Well, go back to rule number 3. Leading zeros. That 0.00674, those zeros are leading zeros. They're not significant. Okay, so I can already chop those off. All right, those are not, like, don't chop them off. They're just not significant. Okay, so let's look at that 3, 4, and 0. Is that 0 significant, yes or no? Well, it is to the right of the decimal, and it is at the end of the number, so it is significant. So the 3, the 4, and the 0 are significant. We've got 3 significant figures. Those are still necessary. The leading zeros are necessary. so that you know how small that number is, but they're not significant. There's a difference between necessary and significant. Okay? All right, 0.7800. Well, leading zero, not significant. All right, these two zeros, they are to the right of the decimal, and they are at the end of the number, so they are significant. So we've got 4 significant figures. All right, rules 1 through 6. These help you identify whether a number is significant, how many digits are significant in a number. All right, this is where the majority of the rules come to play and where you need to know most of the stuff. Okay, rule number 7 is what you actually put into practice most of the time. Okay, this is where we're actually going to use these numbers. In my class in physics, there is a lot of math. We do a lot of multiplication and division. And so you need to be able to work with these numbers. Okay? I want you to get a calculator and randomly multiply any two numbers together. Okay? So let's see. Calculator. Okay? Let's take 55 and multiply it by 77. Okay? 4,235. All of those digits are significant. Okay? Alright. Sorry. Ignore what I just said. Take a number. Okay? So when multiplied or divided, the answer has as many significant figures as the original number with the least significant figures. Rule number 7. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? 2.3 multiplied by 1.1. Calculator says 2.53. Okay? And you're tempted to always write down 2.53. But have you ever wondered exactly how much you are supposed to write down? All right? Take 88 divided by 1.3. Get those really long numbers, 67.6923077. You're like, what am I supposed to write down? This is where significant figures makes a difference. This is where knowing your significant figures clarifies and makes it easier to know what the heck you're supposed to write down and what you're not. Okay? So, 2.3 multiplied by 1.1, 2.53 is what the calculator says. All right, this is what the calculator says. Now, significant figures. 2.3. How many significant figures does that number have? It has 2. 1.1. How many significant figures does it have? It has 2 as well. All right, both of those original numbers have 2 significant figures. Our answer should only have 2 significant figures. So 2.53, that would be 3 significant figures. So the answer we should actually write down is 2.5. Okay? Because it has only 2 significant figures. Okay? 5.1 divided by 3. Put that in the calculator. 5.1 divided by 3. 1.7. This is what the calculator says. Now, significant figures. 5.1 has how many significant figures? It has 2. The number 3 has how many significant figures? It just has 1. Now, when multiplied or divided, the answer has as many significant figures as the original number with the least significant figures. Well, 1 and 2, 1 is smaller than 2. So our answer should only have 1 significant figure. So we need to round this number, 1.7, to just 1 significant figure. It has 2 digits, so we need 1 significant figure. The answer would be 2. Now that is really confusing because 5.1 divided by 3, and I would say the answer is 2, doesn't make much sense because 6 divided by 3 is 2. This is where it comes to be really important that the numbers that you use have enough significant figures. Okay? So, a little note here on the oops page. So let's go to your oops page right here. Don't turn the page, just over here to the side. All measurements done in lab need at least 2 significant figures need at least 2 significant figures so that the calculation answers have 2 sig figs. Alright, significant figures, sig figs is short for significant figures. Sig fig. Okay, so all measurements done in lab need at least 2 significant figures so that the calculation answers have 2 significant figures. Okay, so when you calculate that, you'll still get 2 significant, when we make it a calculation, you'll still get 2 significant figures. That's an important detail. We'll discuss more and practice throughout the semester. Okay. Alright, last one. 7.0 times 1.71 calculator says 11.97. Okay, 7.0 has 2 significant figures. 1.71 has 3 significant figures. The smaller number is 2, so our answer should have only 2 significant figures. Round 11.97, so it only has 2 sig figs. This number has 4 digits. Alright, it looks like it has 4 significant figures. We need to round it so it only has 2. So our answer would be 12. Okay. Like I said, rule number 8, we're not going to do that one. We'll do it when I get back in February. Okay, it's a rule that is really hard to understand, and we'll do all of those calculations together when it comes to significant figures on those. Okay, significant figures is something I want you to practice. Always give me your answer with significant figures. This is kind of challenging, so like I said, we will be working on it throughout the semester. Don't freak out about it, just try your best. Okay, there's significant figures.